I want to redo this whole thing. You know, have the tables at the same height and everything. We're recording, so.
Dennis.
Yep.
Dennis. It's on.
Dennis, we're ready.
Being 5:30 and everybody's present, this is the workshop for the mayor and alderman's meeting. This is April the 2nd, 2015. We got two people speaking. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. When you speak and approach the lectern, please state your name and your address. You'll be limited to 3 minutes. If you go over your 3 minutes, Sergeant Davis will let you know. The first person to speak is Jason Cole.
My name is Jason Cole. I live at 7115 Beard Court. I'm coming here to talk about two things. Number one is the water sprinkler ordinance that's back on the agenda for this month, and seen very little discussion on it by the board other than by Alderman Broker and Mayor Waldron. So I'm wanting to find out, and this can be addressed during the meeting, if anyone's gotten with our fire chief or assistant chiefs, spoken to them. We haven't really heard their opinion on this in this type of discussion. The other thing I wanted to speak about is the Veterans Memorial Park. And one thing that I know the Parks and Rec is doing, and we hope the board will eventually work with us on, is a Veterans Memorial. It's named as a Veterans Memorial, but has none in it. Doesn't even have a flagpole for flags. So I hope we see a partnership there to get this done and honor our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bill Elliott.
My name is Bill Elliott. I live at 204 St. Luke's Lane, and I appreciate you letting me come before you guys and speak. Let me tell you why I'm here. A couple of years ago, I bought property in Laverne. It was made of 2 lots. One had a house on it, and the other one I wanted to develop. I had to split those. It was actually deeded as a single lot. Had to split it. For any of you that also serve on the planning board, thank you very much for helping me get that done. I do appreciate that. I am wanting to build a house that's appropriate for the neighborhood. It's on Vinson Lane, just off of John D. And the house would probably be a little less than 2,000 square feet. In my opinion, a single level house that's 2,000 feet, a sprinkler system is not really appropriate. If it were a 10,000 3-story foot house, maybe you can make a stronger case. I don't think it's appropriate for that size house. So I'm kind of at a crossroads right now, and I'm hoping that you will consider and vote to repeal the sprinkler ordinance on that type of house. If you do, I intend to improve the property and, of course, improve the increase the tax revenues coming into the city of Laverne. If not, I will probably sell it, and you'll make my next door neighbor very happy. She would very much like to buy that lot and leave it vacant forever. She really doesn't want another house there. It's a beautiful lot, more than adequate for building a house, but I've got a house plan. I've got a contractor ready to break ground. We're ready to pull a permit, but we will wait and see what you guys do. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Nobody's speaking other. We'll move on to the workshop. The prayers by Vice Mayor Green, the Pledge of Allegiance by Alderman Graham. Look over your minutes, regular minutes for March 3rd, 2015 regular meeting. And then we'll have 2 presentations. And the consent agenda, number 4, it's A, approve an application from the Box 100 for a roadblock to be conducted from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. on May 2nd, 2015, with a rain date of May 9th, 2015, at the intersection of Murfreesboro Road and Stones River Road. Any discussion on that? That's something we commonly do, roadblocks. Moving to B, approve paving streets in the woods at Martin's Bend.
Mayor, I can talk about this one. A couple of years ago, I don't remember the exact date, looks like it was January 2012, we actually called in the bond on this subdivision, and we received $39,700 from the developer. And the streets had not been completed in that subdivision. So Kyle, a few weeks ago, got a quote from Hoover, and the quote is $45,262 to pave those streets in that subdivision that are needed. Basically, we're just asking for approval. Obviously, the paving amount is a little bit over what we received, but I think we have enough funds left over in our paving to finish off that remaining amount.
But now it could go under that.
It could go under that.
could
That's
go
just an
under
estimate. That's true. So we won't know until it's actually paid.
He's looking maybe in the middle of the month.
I know the people in that area won't get done. Any further questions on the paving the streets at Woods at Martin Bend? Moving on to C, approve change order number 3, final for the East Hurricane Creek Drainage Basin Sewer System Rehabilitation Project, CTI.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Aldermen. We originally bid this job. The price was $332,285. You all allowed us to add work into the project, and I promised you at that time we would reduce it at the end. And this is the change order that will reduce the final installed quantities with the estimated bid quantities. It reduces the cost of the project to $324,385, $7,900 less than the bid price. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
No, sir.
There ain't nobody got no question. We'll move on to number 5, appoint or remove board committee members. A, an Economic Development Advisory Committee, 1 term is vacant.
Mayor, we had a resignation on this committee. Ms. Virginia McMath resigned. We started advertising this on Channel 3 a couple of weeks ago, a week or two ago, and we have not received any applications at this time. If I don't receive any by Tuesday, we'll take this off of the agenda for Tuesday night.
Number B is the library board, 1 term is vacant.
Yes, sir. This is the vacancy for Vaughn Barr, who was an employee here who went on to another job as the HR director at Wilson County. So with her not being an employee any longer, she can no longer be on the library board. And so we have been advertising this on Channel 3 as well. We've not received any new applications. We still have the application from Kristen Costanzo that was left over from the February meeting. But that's the only application I have at this time, if she's still interested.
Number 6 is first reading ordinance 2015-06, an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 6, Section 12-602 of the Laverne Municipal Code requiring modification to the residential code. Bruce?
This is the ordinance that was actually before you last month regarding the sprinkler system for 1 and 2 family homes. This amends the residential code and basically deletes the sprinkler system requirements out of the residential code to where they would not be required. If you'll recall, in order to do this, according to state law, there's 2 different ordinances we have to approve. This is the first one. If this is approved Tuesday night, we'll start the process on the second ordinance, which has to be done at the special meetings, but we'll go through all of that later. Let's just focus on this one ordinance now and whatever the board wants to do in this situation.
This ordinance is to take the fire sprinkler out of the ordinance, make it the way you can
Out
build
of
a
the
single family
residential code.
without having to put a fire sprinkler in it.
Yes, sir.
Open up for discussion. Like myself, I've talked to a lot of people. Developers don't want it. Most everybody I talk to that's building a house or buying a house, they don't want it. I wouldn't want it in my house. Very few people have come to me and said they wanted it, but they don't have it in their house. So I think it's something that I found out that as long as somebody else has got it, as long as they don't have to have it, you know, they don't have a whole lot of input on it. It's just, we need to just decide if we want it or not. And the gentleman talked earlier about the fire department. I've talked to a lot of the fire people about it. Anybody in the fire business is going to be for the fire sprinklers. They're going to be for fire sprinklers, anything pro fire. The fire department is going to be for it. I don't think you find one fireman anywhere that's going to talk negative about not putting fire sprinklers in. But I don't think we got a fire person that's got fire sprinklers in their house. So you know, you discuss that all day, but that's my 2 cents.
Well, my opinion is, if you're building a home and you want the sprinklers, put them in. If you don't want them, leave them out. Let each person make their own decision. If they're building a home or whatever, that's just my opinion.
And that's kind of my opinion too. And if I was building a house and had the choice of putting fire sprinklers or a storm shelter, I a whole lot rather have a storm shelter, because if my house catch on fire, I can walk out in the front yard. But if a storm comes up, I can't go nowhere. So, you know, I guess a lot of people's got different opinions.
Well, I'm going to ask the question, if you don't mind. The board doesn't mind me asking our fire chief, why is it that fire personnel are for this?
Well, first of all, let me say the mayor was exactly correct. I don't know of anybody that is in the profession that I'm in that's going to tell you that residential fire sprinklers or sprinklers in general, commercial, industrial, anything else, is not the best answer to it. The only thing that I'll say about sprinklers, whether they're residential, commercial, industrial, specialized, they save lives and they save property. Period.
I said one question, but I got one more for you.
Okay.
How many fire personnel do we have right now?
Counting our volunteer personnel, we have 51.
See, that's another thing that I think we've overlooked. We not only have a responsibility to our residents, we have a responsibility to our fire personnel and emergency services. The one thing I disagree, you know, we can draw a line. Does it start at 1,200 square feet, 2,000 square feet, so on? You cannot argue with what he just said. It saves lives and it saves property. It also saves taxpayer dollars. You know, fire alarms are great. They certainly can alert us. But if you can have a sprinkler head put out a fire 2 minutes into it versus they get there even 3-4 minutes, fire spread quickly. So you cannot argue what they do.
Oh, that's for
And I have to say this too, and I beat this up 3 times, but I'll say it one more time. The gentleman that's talking about building a house, don't know whether you're going to be in it yourself or you're going to sell it. Your insurance will go down over the life of your mortgage, or the person that you're selling it to will more than pay for itself, on top of keeping you safer. There's something that was not said, and then I'm going to, again, be quiet about it. In 1986, Scottsdale, Arizona put in the same, very similar ordinance. In 2001, they decided to go back and say, well, let's take a look at this again. Do we need it? So it was very similar. You had older homes, you had the newer homes, so on. Every home that had a sprinkler, there wasn't one fatality. Every home, there was 13 fatalities in homes that didn't have sprinklers. So again, it's do we say, okay, let's worry about build, because I certainly have worked my tail off for development in the city in many different ways. But my priority, again, is to the safety of the residents and to the safety of our fire personnel. That's all I have to say.
But getting back to the question, whatever this ordinance passes or don't pass, we're not saying people don't put it in. If you want it in, put it in. Just like storm shelters. If you want storm shelters, put it in. The city is not mandating storm shelters.
Dennis, I respect that. I really do, Mayor. I respect that. But again, when you go buy a new car, or a used car for that matter, I'm not seeing any that doesn't have seatbelts in there. And there's a reason for that. And we have a responsibility up here. No, it's not a popular decision. No, it's going to say some people, hey, maybe we don't want to move here. We don't want to develop here. But there's other developers and there's people here. And I'm for everybody. But we have a responsibility to our citizens. And that's our number one responsibility.
I need to chime in on there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Melissa. I'll yield to you.
Thank you. I received dozens of calls on this particular topic, and I can tell you that overwhelmingly, the vast majority of them were against the sprinkler ordinance simply because they felt like their money could be better spent on other things. And as a representative of the people, I feel like that's what we're supposed to do, is represent what the public is asking us to vote for. There's a debate going on about the insurance rates lowering, and what I've heard from insurance companies is you save on the fire insurance, but your flood insurance goes up because there's possibility of freezing and thawing, pipes bursting. Water damage is just as expensive as fire damage, and yes, there is no a reduced chance of a fatality. But on the other hand, what do you do, Chief? What do you do when the kitchen catches on fire with a grease fire in the event of a water sprinkler? How do you handle that?
Same way we handle any other fire, we put water on it. Sprinkler systems do put grease fires out. I don't know where this misconception is. We tell residents not to throw a pan of water on a grease fire. That's a little different than a sprinkler putting water on a grease fire. We suppress grease fires the same way as we do any other structure.
Okay.
So that's just a misconception in that altogether. I'll say one more thing, and I will be, this has been back and forth as long as I've been here. 32 years, this has been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I am a firm believer in letting the people decide on what they want. And you're right, it's this council's, you're there for the people, and that's what you should do. But you have to remember that I'm out here in the public as well. And myself and my crews are the ones that have to go into these fires. I'm the one that has pulled out multiple bodies in this city. I'm the one that has pulled out multiple burn victims in this city. I can stand here and tell you that some of those people I would have not pulled out had they been sprinkled.
Do you have a
I also
sprinkler in
have a
your
concern.
home?
I do not, but when I build a new house in this city, I assure you it will have.
Okay.
And this is recorded. I promise you it will be sprinkled, if not retrofitted.
Fair enough.
As the mayor said, though, I'm a firefighter. It's all I've ever done. I can bring you 50 in here, or I can bring you 50 in from Metro, or 50 in from Amelville Fire. There's not one going to stand up here and not tell you anything that's positive, pro-life. This is going to be one of them. My only concern is this. Part of this council and this board that's here voted to implement this ordinance before. My concern now, as the fire chief here, and to me, the ones of you that voted to put it in to begin with, you're going to vote something out that's been put in place that saves lives. What's going to happen when the first person dies in that first home that's built? I know how I'm going to feel, and I'll just leave it at that.
As a mayor of this town, I wouldn't want no fire working for this city that didn't have that same philosophy. everything for fire safety. But it's got to be a little bit of common sense.
Right. It's much harder for us on our side, and I've had the discussion with the mayor, some of the other aldermen I've had the same discussion with as well. It's very different for me to stand here and argue this either way. I feel for the builders having to add costs to the home. I feel for the homeowner having to pay more for that home because of it. But in all honesty, it's not a fair question to me as a firefighter to ask me about a fire sprinkler in anything. My answer is never going to change. It doesn't matter who comes up and argues for it or against it. My philosophy on it's not going to change. It's that way today. It was that way when I started 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. If I'm still surviving and around and doing this 10 years from now, it's still going to be the same way. So you're right. And that's one reason that I've sat over here, and unless you have a question of me, I don't really offer it up. People that call, residents that call and ask me what my opinion is the same thing I've given you here today. And it won't be any different. And I know this is extremely hard for you, all of you. You put in a bad predicament a lot of times on a lot of different situations. But I will tell you, there has not been a fire fatality in a residential structure in the United States with a sprinkler in it. You can't say the same thing for one that hasn't. So that's what I have to base it off of.
I'd like to just say that in answer to the individual that came up, yeah, I went to the fire departments and I spoke with the chief, and the chief referred me over to some of his firemen. And as he said, everyone was all for it. I'm for it. But as a homeowner, I don't think I need to tell you or these builders that they have to put a fire. If like Vice Mayor Green just said, if you want it, get it. The chief just said that he will retrofit or he will get one in the next house that he built. If I read a little bit more into it and I get another house built here in Laverne and I want one, let it be my option to get one. I work in a hospital. If we're going to start doing this, let's not pass an ordinance where everyone should have a defibrillator in their home. We've got elderly people living in this city. Everyone should have a defibrillator in case they have a heart attack. Oxygen tanks. Let's make sure everyone has oxygen tanks. We got to stop at some point. If you feel that you need a defibrillator, oxygen tank, or fire sprinkler, get it. I don't think that we as a governing body need to sit here and tell you. And in reference to the seat belts, if the car was retrofitted prior to the mandatory need of seat belts, they don't have to have, antique cars don't have to have seat belts in them. If your house is already built, we're not making you put a fire sprinkler in there. The majority of the homes here, I hope we don't have as many built that are here in Laverne right now, because we're in a very crowded city. The majority of the houses don't have them in it. I just don't think, and again, let me get this straight too. Let me get this out there too. I want to make sure that it's known that that was my mistake at our last meeting. I was reading the commercial fire extinguisher ordinance when I voted on this one, and I wanted on record that I screwed that up. And I'm going to fix it by saying that I don't think as a governing body we need to tell anyone that they need to put something in their home such as a fire extinguisher when you can go and get one yourself. The insurance will work the same way. If you go get one and have it put in, it'll do the same way as your burglar alarm. They'll take a discount off for you. I just don't think that that's something that we need to tell people they need to do.
Alderman Jones, I agree with the one thing. I'm not for more regulation at all either. I guess what it is, though, at some point we have to build quality. We have to look out for our residents. We have to look out for our taxpayer dollars, which this would save. We have to look out for our fire personnel. Just in the video that we saw that I think was Orange County, the fire was extinguished within 2 minutes, even with their great response time of 3 minutes. Okay, the fire can spread by that point in time. If that is your home, you know, that could be a life, that could be more insurance dollars and so on. We have to look at that. We have to look at what we've been building on with our water system and our ISO rating that hopefully will go down soon. And this will also enhance that, or enhance the possibilities of that going down, which will then everyone will have a lower insurance rate. You're absolutely right. You're never going to get a resident to walk up here and say, I want to pay more for anything, and I don't blame them. But when you look through the difference is retrofitting. Like in my home, if I retrofitted, it'd be like $5,000, $6,000. Had I have done it in 2000 when I built, it would have been about 1% of my home, which would have been, so everyone knows, like $1,120. The life of the loan, that's peanuts per month to save my family and to save my property and to save these guys' lives. So I'm with you. I'm not for more regulation. What I am for, though, is keeping our city safe, and that is, if you look at probably every city's mission statement, the number one thing, or it's in there, is our responsibility is to our safety of our residents, and that's what I'm looking at here. I'm not trying to be argumentative here, and I'm not trying to say, hey, let's try to throw more bills on top of anyone that wants to buy here. What I'm trying to do is keep our city safe.
And I agree with you on that, and I understand. I don't accept it as argumentative. And if we are going to argue, this is the time to do it during the debate. But the other thing about it, even if with retrofit, if we were to retrofit your house, if we're going to use safety as our catalyst to push this through, we need to also make the citizens retrofit their homes who have already built, because we're talking safety. The firemen's got to go to those homes too.
Yes, sir.
So if we're gonna do it, then they need to do it everywhere. We didn't start it out, and I'm not saying that just because these slip by we don't need it. It's a wonderful thing to have. But as far as this governing body telling people that they need to do it, I just don't think that we need to tell them that they need to do it. I'm all about safety too. I'm all about that mission statement, and I want that. But again, you know, not to sound like a broke record, when we get into that frame of mind, you know, are we going to tell people that, you know, back to the defibrillator, that saves lives? I've seen it done. You know, I know it saves lives. Let's not get, why not let's get them? You know, make them come with each home. Or, so I just, you know, I just don't think that we need to tell people that, that they have to do it. Now, if there was a modification on there, like the gentleman said, if it were 10,000 square feet or some humongous 3-story something, yeah, I think that would probably help. But, you know, with my little shack, I can kick the window out and get out if I smell smoke. So it's just too small to even, you know, to even think about trying to do that.
Well, what if you're not there? What if you're at work and the house is empty and these guys still have to come in and fight that fire, though?
But how many policemen, how many firemen have lost their lives in Laverne so far from doing it?
We haven't had a fire fatality in a fire.
And let's hope we never do. But
that's
kind of unfair. But if we save one life,
let's hope my house never catch on fire.
Yes, sir. I don't want your house on fire either.
Okay.
You know, again, the one thing I don't understand, and this is, again, I've said 5 times the last time, but it seems like there's something else. You and I sat on a planning commission together, and we saw many problems that predated us on that board. And we did our best to try to turn things around, and we did a pretty good job. We can't go back and rebuild homes throughout Laverne, but what we can do is now require some of the things that should have been required before, and do what was right.
And I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But in the planning commission, we were mainly talking about businesses that were coming in, and if we were talking about safety, then safety goes across all realms of what we're discussing right now. If we're going to do this and we're using it, safety as our main objective, then why are we leaving these other ones empty? I mean, they should also have fire extinguishers.
I mean, you can look at a lot of things. Grandfather clauses, right? We know we've dealt with several of those, right? So we're going to go back and change all that too. My point is, it would be unfair to tell a resident right now, like in my case, hey, brother, you've got to pay $5,000, $6,000 right now by such and such time. But when these people are coming in and it's startup and it's built into their mortgages and it's 1% of their overall cost, and on top of it, it'll be more than paid for and it keeps them safer. You know, again, to me, we agree on that, no over regulation, But when you have it where one hand is really going to take care of the other, meaning through the course of that loan, it's paid off, and it's keeping these guys safe. That's where I can say, you know what, yes. Again, you'll never get a resident up there and say, barring they had gone through a tragedy or lost a loved one or lost property, you'll never get one to sit up there. Okay, but there's a reason why I asked him the very first question. I said, why is it the fire personnel? He said, saves lives and saves property.
True.
And so, again, there's our argument, and we could go round and round all night.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and I agree with you. And again, I believe that should be done, but if we could speak to the resident or the possible citizen of Laverne that's moving in and be as passionate about it, maybe, you know, leave it up to them to say, you know, you're right. I want a fire extinguisher. Go ahead and build. I'll get my builder and tell them to go ahead and put one in there. But it's your choice.
You just brought a great idea, and I really like it. In a lot of other cities, and I believe Pleasant View, they actually give a benefit to homeowners that put them in.
But let it be their choice.
Randolph, the houses in the last few years has burnt down Laverne. When they rebuilt them, before this sprinkler system was built, how many of them added sprinklers when they rebuilt it?
Not one.
Not one. So even though their house burnt down and they built back, they didn't put it in there. Even going through a house fire, they still didn't want one in there. I can't think of not one that rebuilt the house and put a fire sprinkler in the last 20 years.
And I'd like to say one more thing while the chief is up here. If you could just let your men know, I listened to what they said. I went out there and I talked to each individual and I listened to what they said. But again, as Alderman Brown said, we have to listen to what the people want.
And I agree with that.
And the needs of the many.
I do agree, and as I said, it's easier for me on my side than it will be for you sitting up there.
Yeah.
I mean, 32 years, I pulled a 17-year-old boy out on Christmas night, burnt to death.
Yeah.
You can't ask me what my thought is on this. It's not, that's not fair.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want you on the fire department if you didn't have that
Yes, sir, I know
philosophy. And I appreciate it.
So I hope y'all don't think that I'm just being hard to get along with, because I'm not. It's all I've ever done, and it's what I've seen, and it's what I do every day. My thoughts on a lot of things: helmets, seat belts, airbags. There's a whole lot of things that my thoughts are going to be different on than they would be people that have never dealt with it every day.
The big issue with fire sprinklers in new homes, we're dealing with people that's not here, that can't speak for themselves. If you want to really know how people feel about water sprinklers, if we would even talk about putting it in pre-existing houses, I guarantee you this room would not hold the people that would be against it. The people not showing up talking against the fire sprinkler because they're not here yet. Just maybe one gentleman, he's wanting to build. But if you would talk to them, they would say, I'd rather not have it in there. Everybody had enough discussion?
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody have anything else? Moving on to, let's see, number 7, first reading ordinance 2015-07, an ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 3 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding the sewer use ordinance.
Good evening again. I doubt that this topic will arouse as much passion as the previous one. A few years ago, the Environmental Protection Agency attempted to streamline pretreatment regulations for industries. And part of that program is rewriting sewer use ordinances. About 4 years ago, Metro Nashville updated their sewer use ordinance and then requested the City of Laverne update your sewer use ordinance to reflect the changes that they had made in their pretreatment program in the sewer use ordinance, so that the two are in line, since they treat your wastewater and they also administer your pretreatment program. This week, we received approval from Metro for the proposed changes to your sewer use ordinance. These were put together by CTI engineers with input from the city engineer, the city administrator, and the city attorney. Now that that approval has been received from Metro, then we would ask or recommend that the city of Laverne adopt the revised sewer use ordinance. The bulk of it deals with the pretreatment program. We also included some housekeeping in this ordinance to change the wording to reflect the elimination of the position of Public Works Director, and that reference is now to the city administrator in all places in this ordinance.
Now, what did you just say?
It's only 50 pages. I'll read it to you. We eliminated the Public Works Director position reference in the ordinance and made it city administrator or his designee instead.
Okay.
My only question is, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, like he just said, it's or my designee. There's a definition in here for city administrator, so it all doesn't necessarily fall on me, because obviously I don't understand the vast majority of all of this. I read through it today, and it's very technical. So, you know, but the definition does explain city administrator, and it does allow me to designate somebody in the city that knows more about it and can follow what needs to be done.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more questions about the sewer usage ordinance? Number 8, motion to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Rutherford County Emergency Medical Service and the City of Laverne regarding emergency medical response program.
Did I make that long enough? Bruce, do you want to speak to this, or you want me to?
You go ahead.
This is our agreement between Rutherford County EMS and our medical first responder program with the fire department here in the city. We had to go back in and do a little revamping on it because of our response, and of course, since now it's not a private fire service, this basically is the first time that we've re-entered into this memorandum under the city itself. There's no real big changes in it. It reads pretty much just as the same, except it says City of Laverne Fire now instead of Laverne Fire Incorporated. Same policies and procedures are in place, and they are the governing body for medical response within Rutherford County, so we fall underneath them, and this is just that memorandum of understanding between us and them. Everything's basically the same there. Assistant Chief Clark, he's on vacation this week, or he'd be speaking a little further on this. He actually helped to make the changes that have been made, and they're more to our benefit and to get us more in line with the current medical standards of the state and with Rutherford County to make sure that everything's being done properly. But as you can see, it reads almost word for word of what our old one was before between private fire and EMS.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to number 9, that's the discussion, first reading ordinance 2015-08, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2014-2015 general fund budget for change to the Human Resource Department staffing. Vaughn?
Good evening, Mayor. Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Aldermen. I come before you to discuss the possibility of restructuring the Human Resource Department. Historically, the Department of Human Resources serves as the nucleus for all needed employee employment actions within the city. The employment life cycle begins and ends in HR. As with ever-changing workforce needs, the needs of employees are greatly diversified and constantly emerging. City employment has increased greatly in the past 20 years, thus the reasoning for proposing this measure to evaluate the department's role and structure. We want to ensure that we're providing tangible services to both internal and external customers. Human resources employee oversight and interactions involve a wide gamut: recruitment services, employee relations, benefits administration, training and development. We also oversee wellness and compliance. It's pinnacle that our HR services are effective, efficient, and engaging. Ultimately, we always strive to ensure customer needs are met timely and proficiently. Human resource staff members are viewed and deemed as the catalysts, agents of needed action. And in the HR world, everybody always needed something yesterday. Employees have been conditioned and are accustomed to visiting the city's HR department for immediate answers and assistance without hesitation or reserve. High visit and call volumes necessitate the need for restructure. Trusted and valued leadership and transparent collegial partnering is much desired by all employees. Thus, HR is always held to be at a higher standard when it comes to performance. In a progressive city such as Laverne, it's vital that we continue to meet the needs and demands of our employees' expectations with expediency and tenacity. Employee issues are usually both personal and professional in nature, and HR is always there to help, to try to help find a happy balance. So with newly emerging HR trends and issues, it's imperative that we enable our employees, not disable them while transitioning through change. As we move toward the idea of providing innovative self-empowerment opportunities to employees through utilization of new HR tools and products, services, it's important that HR is well-staffed to assist in instructional opportunities. HR engagement is an integral driving force that puts the work life cycle in gear and keeps the cycle moving toward happy work-life balance, growth, and learning. With this being said, our current structure is set up where we have Human Resource Director, myself, we had Human Resource Manager, Vaughn Barr, and we had a receptionist, Human Resource Assistant, who is Joanne Clark. We're proposing that we modify the HR structure where we have HR Director, a Human Resource Specialist, a Human Resource Assistant, and a receptionist. The reason being, again, as you know, it is hard for Joanne to work the switchboard and also to assist HR in our day-to-day activities. With that being said, it's hard to cross-train. We also want to note that prior to the arrival of Ms. Barr a few years back, the position was actually coded Human Resource Specialist. So what we're proposing is that we take that position and we make the vacant position, make it into two. Okay, we want to make two positions out of that one manager position. Justification summary, increased employee population. In 1995, we had 100 employees. 2015, we have 220 employees. Increased employee services in regard to training and development, benefits administration. We have a need for increased cross-training opportunities, especially due to our turnaround time, the expectancy there. Increased customer support, whether it's for employees, applicants, or vendors. Increased issues and emerging trends. A lot of legal compliance and data security information needs to be safeguarded. There's been increased need for strategic and tactical planning, special projects, wellness initiatives, and increased organizational management. Again, we want everyone to feel like they can take a vacation or take a sick day if they need to without being concerned that we don't have the coverage to ensure everyone's needs are met. Also, we need to ensure that we are continuing to provide professional development to our staff members in hopes that they will continue to grow and to be more efficient and effective in their roles as HR professionals. So it is our hope and desire that the council will approve this recommendation because there is a little need to remodify the monetary piece. We have been working with Phyllis, and we are hoping that we think we have everything covered, and we feel that it will balance out when it's all said and done. And it is our desire that the council will approve this recommendation. Are there any questions?
I think you said a little need. I think it's a big need. When I come in this council in 2004, the HR department, about the same it was back then. The fire department come on board. It really boosted y'all's workload, and basically, the manpower y'all had was same y'all had there maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I think that's a department that well needs to be staffed, upstaffed.
And my understanding, I believe there were actually 4 members of Human Resources somewhere between that window of time. I'm not certain when, but I've been doing some research, and the categories that we've listed are synonymous with previous individuals who were in those categories within the past 5 to 6 years.
Anybody have any questions?
I've got a question. Does the city have steps? Is it just the grade, or do y'all have steps?
We have grades and steps that coincide.
And it goes up to, when do they top out?
9, step 9.
At 9? Okay.
If I may, I mean, I feel I wholeheartedly support this request. I think HR is one of several departments that are very shorthanded, and I know that ever since Vaughn left, Cheryl has been very busy trying to keep up with everything, but we do have some projects coming up in the near future. Obviously, performance evaluations, we're going to be doing those very soon, and updating job descriptions and things like that. And those are the type of projects, I mean, they're big projects, and they take manpower to get them done in a good time frame, and she needs the help to get those things done.
And you said you were able to talk with Phyllis and get this, where the 2 positions come from the one salary of the previous?
We can't quite equate it to, one position equals the 2. There is a little cost involved there in bringing the budget ordinance.
Go to the next page, Glenn.
Next page. This is the difference in the cost for the rest of this year, for the balance of the year. Now, while working on the budgets this week, looking at the cost going into next year, the cost is actually only going to be about the same net-wise, because when we allocate a lot of the HR cost out to stormwater and water and sewer funds, so with adding another person on, we're also allocating more of that time back out. So the net effect of it is still only about $17,000 even for next year. And we'll look at those numbers a little closer during budget time. And if I could, I want to talk about the steps. We have a step system and a grade system, but whenever someone tops out, we either add a step and drop a step, or one year they get a lump sum, and the next year we'll add a step and drop a step. So it's not kind of flat. We do modify.
And that's done just to try to keep up with the current scale, across the state and everything.
I guess the reason I was asking is, what about, how about, you got it listed as 5, and 7, 6, and 5, and you're locking yourself into that. Couldn't it possibly be 5/6 if you get someone that comes in that has more experience or something, or you get someone that comes in as a 5, they go to school, get more experience, and you want to bump them up. But are you locked in at that 5?
No, because we have the steps where we can actually bring someone in with credible years of experience if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
We could actually look at that. But again, each job has been evaluated by our outside compensation specialist group, and so we're trying to stay consistent with the last pay study program and the grades as they are.
And again, the reason that I'm asking it that way is because of my employment. We get a lot of people in, and of course they go to school, they get more experience, but with the federal government, they're locked in that position, and they end up quitting. Because, if you go in and you become proficient with the job, you get more experience, and then they're not willing to keep you because they're locked in, and that's why I asked about that.
We've got a policy in our handbook that talks about basically when somebody is hired and the ranges that they can come in at. Basically, if somebody's wanting to move up to that next grade, then we have to look at their job description and what their duties are, and if they need to move up or they want to move up, we have to look at their job description and add more duties to them to allow for that extra compensation. So
Okay.
I'm not saying it's permanently locked in, but like if a receptionist wants to move up from a grade 5 to a grade 6, they would need to take on additional duties to justify going up that grade.
And you just revised the PD
Exactly.
on that? Okay, that's,
And we would take that through our compensation company to verify those that it would justify that amount.
my concern is, usually what happens is you get someone in, they become, they really get good with the job, and then they realize, and I'm just talking about from what I observed where I work, and you're locked in that position, in that grade, so they have no incentive to stay. But I see y'all got it covered, so that's good.
Phyllis, you want to speak to the, because this is going to be basically a month and a half, if I'm figuring it out correctly. If this is past second reading, time you hire, you may be talking mid-May. Right now, we're saying there's a budget amendment of 17.7, basically, and then you said next year it's going to be ballpark the same thing. Just explain that a little better to me so I understand that as far as.
Okay. I actually budgeted for this for 3 months, April, May, and June. And this is the difference between the grade that was there and splitting it out. For next year, when we look at our budget as a whole, we do an allocation. We allocate some of the finance department out through various departments. We allocate IT department to various departments. We allocate some of the Bruce's, because he's not only working for general fund, he's working for water and sewer fund and stormwater fund. So same with HR, they're doing work for several different funds. So when you take the total amount, you allocate, I'm thinking it's like 40% of their total wages. So whenever I took that allocation, because we were adding a person, we get to allocate those, a big portion of those wages out to these various departments. So overall net effect of it is somewhere around 17. Because I'm not allocating it in this 3 months. I didn't redo the allocation, but for the whole year next year.
I understand. Thank you.
It's kind of unusual. But.
And another point is, the manager position was exempt. The 3 positions will now be hourly, so they will not be exempt positions.
Okay.
There's a difference there as well.
Anybody has anything else on item number 9? If not, we'll move on to number 10, it's discussion. Discussion motion to approve offer for Old Timers Day Festival Entertainment. Kathy, is that you?
I'm going to let AC talk about that.
Well, we're in a bad spot. We're trying to attempt to get a known act in here for Old Timers Festival to bring more people out. We don't really have a facility. Some of their riders have so many conditions and demands on them. It's insane for us to say, like we were talking to Phil Vassar's people, want to get him out here. He's a known act. He'll draw a big crowd. But some of the requirements to bring him here, we don't have the facilities for some of the stuff they're talking about. So, and the bad part is, if you want a big name to draw people, you have to go this way, but then you have to find somebody who's willing to meet you halfway. And I believe Evan looked over his stuff too and found 3 different clauses in there that were deal breakers, that were just, can't do it,
Just for fun, y'all ought to read those sometimes.
Oh, it's some of the craziest, like 6.
8 jars of green jelly beans.
Yeah, it's the craziest stuff you ever seen.
14 cases of real Coke or, Diet Coke with twist of lime. It's just mind-boggling.
I've seen hand towels and Red Bull. it's just all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, it really is. And and I figure, why would you put all that in there? But, and some of it they'll back off on, but, like private restroom for each band member and stuff like that. You're going to the concession stands, you're coming here right now until we get a little more going. But I don't think he's going to go for that. So but he sent it. What he wants us to do is have the board approve it and send it back to them saying we can't do those 3 things that you had an issue with, and then they'll let us know if they'll do it with those 3 things taken off there. So, I don't see them doing it, but we can try it. But we may have to go in a different direction. So.
Well, and we'll also have to go through the rest of the rider and weed out things that we just can't do. And,
right. Oh, there's a lot.
As far as, dollar amounts, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Julie had the last conversation, I didn't speak with her, but I think he wanted a substantial amount, but we were saying something around 20 from what we had in last year's budget, but I don't know if they're even gonna go for that. They haven't given us an indication of what it is.
I think we had made the offer at 15.
Yeah.
And they came back asking for 30, but they didn't exactly turn us down.
Right.
So basically, we have to knock out all the stuff we can't do, make our offer at 15 or 20, whatever we want to offer, and see if they'll accept it.
But while this is dragging on, we're losing valuable time.
That's what I was, yeah,
Not
that's
getting
what I
any
was
further
just
away.
thinking.
So we either need to just get off of this and go in a different direction, or,
Because if they're gonna negotiate back and forth, and we're only meeting, there would be no justification to call a special meeting for this, would it?
Well, I mean, you can call a special meeting for anything you want to.
I wouldn't call
What
it
I
for
would,
that.
what I would like to recommend is that you give us a to not exceed cost, and then we try to negotiate it, under that cost. That way, we're not having to come back.
And if they send it back with more, we'll just look elsewhere. I mean, because we can't just keep doing it until we're down to the last minute.
We can hire you, AC.
Oh, yeah.
So Tuesday, you want us to give,
If y'all want to approve what they.
prove it
what
and
they're-
then put a dollar amount on it?
Yeah, give us the ceiling, and we'll send it back to them with the 3 clauses that you have an issue with, and if they say, no, they can't do it, then we'll start looking elsewhere again.
And in our budget, we kind of figured that we have around $20,000 that we can spend on a main act. That money is in the budget currently, that's still in this fiscal year. So, the money is available. We just need to get moving on it if we're going to try and get these folks booked for September.
Is he the only artist that we have spoken with?
Hmm?
Is he the only artist that we've spoken with?
She's checked with some others, when we're trying to get that, not the current now person, but somebody who's well-known, like we talked to Sammy Kershaw's people and Charlie Daniels, and no, he's not the only one, but he's the one that's talking back right now. So we're still looking, we're still, we've got feelers out there and waiting on a lot of calls back. So we've talked to several.
I see anywhere in that, however many pages of whatever, are they going to advertise as well? Because my fear, and I said this to Bruce today, is, we brought some acts in, now certainly not of this name before, but you spend $20,000,
right, and
we have 40 people watching it. What I mean is we certainly have, we've had that problem with advertising, but that's what kind of scares me a little bit. I mean, let's say he's there for 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever, and there's 50 people.
right.
And I know he's a little bit bigger than, what was it called, the Wanna Beatles, but we spent a good chunk on them, and I think there were, 5 people sitting under the tent watching it.
I think the wannabe deals we actually had probably about 50 people, and I think
Okay.
it was 4,000 or 5,000. But
Yeah, but I'll make sure we ask that question of them as well.
Tickets are gonna be sold?
No.
What's the, am I reading the right thing here on, his contract?
But it's no admission, it's free for old timers now.
Correct. Yeah. It's a free event for the community.
What time were you planning on him playing, all day long or at night, or?
No, he won't do that. That'll be, we're looking at, we want to do it earlier in the day. I'm thinking maybe 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at the latest, because people won't start getting out of there. If it's a one-day event, your crafters are going to be loading up. Some of them trying to get out of there early, especially if they're not doing good. So we're kicking around the idea around somewhere between 5 and 7.
Okay.
Have you considered a series of smaller acts that may be a little more accommodating?
Well, we've looked at that as well. And we are also looking at, like Mayor Waldron had said, about bringing out some smaller acts and setting up a separate stage for them, and maybe just using Pavilion A as an acoustic area throughout the day, early on, and then having them come out later as the big act. So, but yeah, we're talking to people about that as well.
Okay.
Okay. No more being said on number 10, we'll move to number 11. discussion, motion to participate in in the Get Alarm Tennessee Smoke Alarm Program.
We've been working on this, I think I got this back to Evan a couple of years ago. We've been going back and forth with some different things. This is through the State of Tennessee Fire Marshal's Office. This would just allow us to be able to get free smoke detectors through the State Fire Marshal's Office and be able to actually install them ourselves in homes that need them within the city limits. Where we had the problems before was us being able to go into a home and actually put the detectors up because of the liability and things like that. We would work on a waiver of some kind, which we'd have to get Evan to work on that for us as well, but I think it could be something relatively simple in order to do it. But as we talked about with other things like sprinklers, we, as a fire department, it's our job to try to bring things up to par and to save as many lives as we can, and this has been known as well to help save lives across the state of Tennessee. The majority of the state now is participating in this program with the State Fire Marshal's Office. They are showing that it has saved lives. There's no cost to the city involved in this other than the time that it'll take Evan to draw up the waivers for us, and then obviously it'd be on-duty crews that go out and put these detectors up, and it's on an as-needed and as-called-for basis for the citizens.
Good deal. I'm not changing the subject, but in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'd like you to get with the code department, check on like that 3-hour burn block. You know, a lot of the buildings going to. I think that'd be good.
Okay.
At 3 hour.
We can definitely do that.
Any questions on the fire smoke detectors? And I do have them in my house.
I do as well.
Moving on to number 12, discuss resolution to approve a policy regarding the farmer's market.
Mayor, we've been discussing this for a couple of months, and we really need to just have a decision made by the board whether they want to pursue having our own city farmer's market. What we've done, and thanks to Jason Cole, he's helped us compile a draft set of rules and regulations, and that's what's in your package tonight. There are some things that we still need to iron out as far as some different policies, and also as far as fees and things like that. But this is kind of the base for this policy and rules and regulations. Between now and Tuesday, AC and I and maybe others will work on kind of clarifying some of these items that are highlighted that we need to address as far as fees and such. But what it boils down to is whether this board wants to pursue having a city farmers market over at the Civic Auditorium. I think there could be some benefits to it, obviously for the residents, and you know, obviously the farmers and such would have another outlet to sell their produce and whatnot. But our ordinance, our municipal code does allow for sales to be made on city property and city parks, subject to the Parks and Rec Department and Director. So, you know, we can do it. It just boils down to whether you want to allow it.
And can I say something else too? If we decide to move forward with this, we need to decide also how often we want to do this, because I was looking over at our schedule for the Civic Auditorium. We have programs that are in there during the week. In the evenings, Jazzercise is in there Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then the local UAW has it kind of blocked off for the last Thursday of the month. Yeah, the last Tuesday of every month. Now that's something we could shuffle around a little bit, I'm assuming, but I would think if we're going to have that, they're going to need to come in kind of early and set up and be ready to go. So looking at this though, the Tuesdays and possibly Fridays and Saturdays are big rental days. So that's when, you know, birthday parties and wedding showers and stuff like that come and rent. forward with it, we can make it work. It just takes some juggling a little bit.
What did you say about Thursdays? Because as you recall, the vendors that we spoke to said they did not want weekends because they were in Smyrna and Murfreesboro.
Right.
I think it was
Thursdays, Jazzercise is in there as well from 5:45 to 6:45. Now, that's not to say that I didn't check the multi-purpose yet, but if we can talk to them and maybe get them to switch places or, you know, and ask them, see if they're willing to work with us on that.
Again, the only problem I see with it, when people see somebody setting up, selling something at the city called up a profit, they're gonna wanna sell socks, they will have yard sale stuff there.
Well, when you read through the policy, the draft of the policy, it says in there that if it's not for consumption or a food product, you know, it has to be approved by us, or they're not gonna be allowed to do it. Now, policing that, you know, is gonna be a little tedious probably to start with, but if you can find the right ones, bring the good ones in there that are reputable and want to work with us and do it the right way, it shouldn't be an issue. Maybe right out of the gate a couple times, but.
How long and who will have the brief training session?
Which part?
And how long? I'm looking at the highlighted part on page, the first exhibit A. E, I'm sorry, paragraph E.
Oh, that's one of the things that we're looking at. That's probably not going to, we can't do that as a city, I don't think. You know, if they want to bring their own machine and do their sales that way, that's fine, but I'm not comfortable with us putting credit card machines.
No. Am I reading it? Each vendor must complete a brief.
No, that's what that is. That's the Laverne Farmers Market accepts credit, debit, and EBT payments on behalf of all producer vendors. To me, that's where the farmer is basically paying the city for their fees for their spot. And I don't know if we want to do that or not, and that's why it's highlighted. That's one of those things we've got to address and see what we can do there. So,
No, I'm reading, but what is it? Okay, it says, produce vendor. As EBT funds may only be used to purchase certain items, each vendor must complete a brief training session and sign a cooperating agreement from the participant. I mean, to participate. What is that, to participate in using the electronic payment?
That's what that's training for.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at.
Okay.
If we're not going to allow them to take credit payments, that paragraph's going to be gone.
Right.
All right. And those things that we approved last, what you were talking about, those won't be set up?
They're set up for us already in the concession stands, and we have one in the park building. They first term, they work perfect.
But this has nothing to do with the farmer's market.
No, it has nothing to do with that. That would mean having to purchase more of those machines because we bought those ourselves so that we didn't have to rent those. So we own those.
Okay, and they're not, I thought they were portable.
They are portable, but they're set up with hotspots in each location. So they have to have internet for,
Understood.
you know, and Glenn fixed us up with some hotspots for those, and they worked really good the first weekend we used them.
Okay.
You know, they have the ones that you can adapt to your cell phone so that each farmer would be responsible for their own.
Exactly.
And that way the city's not having to pay for it.
Yeah, I would hate to take any of our stuff down there, because you don't ever know, something could happen, or somebody walk off with it.
Right.
AC, look at Tuesday as well, please, what you have available.
Tuesday what?
Tuesday, look, what do you have available Tuesday?
Tuesday, right, that's what I was saying, the only thing that's in there is the last Tuesday of every month is the UAW.
Okay.
So Tuesday is open for that.
I think when we spoke, we only were talking, doing it maybe twice a month, like every other week or something like that. So.
And I think Tuesday night would be a really good day to do that.
And what were the hours?
Well, that's
Possible?
still kind of up in the air, but, you know, for them to come in and set up, they're probably gonna have to start getting there around 2 or 3, I would think, to have everything ready. So whenever they're up and running, you know, it's not gonna be like an open and close thing. I mean, I'd say that they have to be out there by a certain time, but as far as opening, whenever you get there, get set up, you know, people can stop.
It would probably be just evenings, like 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, something like that.
I mean, that would sound like that'd be pretty good. Everybody be coming home.
Set up during time people come home from work and, you know, everything else.
Yeah.
It'd be really good, especially there, it's really busy right there.
Anything else on the number 12, the farmers market? Moving on to number 13, discuss city administrator performance review. Cheryl?
The City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen recently conducted a formal performance review of City Administrator Bruce Richardson. The review was facilitated under the direction of the City of Laverne Human Resources Department and in accordance to the City Administrator's employment contract with the city. And the results are as follows. You have the specific data in your packets, and it clearly delineates all the categories that are listed on the information that I just passed to you. We looked at a scale of 5 to 1, 5 being excellent, 4 above average, 3 average, 2 below average, and 1 poor. Individual categories, individual characteristics, professional skills and status, relations with elected members of governing body, policy execution, reporting, citizens relations, staffing, supervision, fiscal management, and community. As you can see, the scores were all above average. Individual characteristics, 4.6, professional skills and status, 4.6, relations with elected members of governing body, 4.64, policy execution, 4.88, reporting, 4.8, citizens relations, 4.92, staffing, 4.84, supervision, 4.90, fiscal management, 4.84, and community, 4.92, for an overall average of 4.79. As you can tell, our city administrator is doing a wonderful job based on this performance evaluation and the summation. You have a copy of all of the individual scores for your own review. And we also wanted to address some of the comments. The comments range from Bruce is very partnering, he is very open, he is very calm in his demeanor. Very rarely do you ever see Bruce stress. He doesn't stress out.
In public.
He is very open as far as open door policy. He's very knowledgeable. He's been with the city for quite some time, and he's well trusted to get the job done. A special comment was made in reference to the needs study that is actually needs study is being performed on the space for the city of Laverne, City Hall and our offices. And individuals indicated they were very proud that Bruce took the initiative to go out and to look at this particular piece because it was very important to the existence and to the future of the city of Laverne. And so on behalf of the city of Laverne, our mayor and board of aldermen, we want to give you meritorious commendations for a job well done, Bruce. And we hope that you are satisfied with the information that has been provided by our aldermen and our mayor. And we just wish you much continued success as our city administrator.
Thank you. Before we go on, I do want to thank all of the board for the nice comments, and I do really appreciate it, but obviously I wouldn't be where I'm at without the department heads and without the employees that the city has. We all work hard, and I appreciate all that they do for the city, and I want to give credit where credit's due.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the report?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to number 14, discussion, proposal budget workshop dates, April 9th, April 13th, April 21st of 2015, all at, 5:30 p.m. Everybody check their the schedule and make sure all that fits.
I need to get this advertised as soon as possible, so, you know, if you know of anything right off the bat that's going to conflict with those dates and times, let me know after the workshop, and we'll get them scheduled if I don't hear anything. In your package, we've got the timeline for the budget, obviously the workshops, and then we hope to have the first reading on the budget May the 5th with the public hearing and second reading on June the 2nd. And of course, the ordinance would take effect on July 1st.
Moving on to number 15, discussion resolution to name a bridge in honor of Homer Kirkendall. I had a call a few months ago. Homer Kirkendall's, I think, son-in-law, Homer Kirkendall, I think he was I believe it was the second city administrator we had. He passed away about a year ago. His family requested something be named, like put a sign up like a bridge. They really wanted the bridge over I-24, but talking to Bruce, and that had to go through the state and all. It'd be a whole lot easier to maybe name something else in honor of Homer Kirkendall. That's something we can do in-house if the board approves it. Garland can make the sign and we can put it up. It's just a board decision if they want to do it or not. Families requested it, and we have named a bridge before over the railroad track on Walden Road, so it's something we have done before.
And he's been here forever, hasn't he?
Yeah, he lived on Sanders for years and years. Homer has. Just something y'all think about.
Yeah, I mean, like the mayor said, we've only named the one bridge, I think, in town that goes over the railroad track, Waldron Road, for the mayor of Laverne Lot, France. Mm-hmm. That was done, I think, 81 or sometime in that time frame. You know, if we want to do the bridge over I-24, it would have to go through the state legislature. In the packet is the memo, a letter from Rusty Dallas, and he's stating that Senator Jim Tracy would be willing to take that through the legislature for us, and they would, you know, make the sign and everything once it goes through their process. If we just want to name another bridge, and I don't know really what other bridges we have other than like the Jefferson Pike Bridge. There's really not that many major bridges in town, you know, that we could name after Mr. Kuykendall, but you know, he was the first full-time city manager for the city. I think he was in office from '73, I think June of '73 until July of '79, so about 6 years. So ultimately it's up to this board if you want to name a bridge and which one it might be.
And we could decide which bridge we want to, if we wanted to do I-24, we could pass it on to Jim Tracy. If we wanted to do another bridge, we could probably do it in-house.
What other bridge? How many bridges do we
I think me and Bruce talked about the Jefferson Pike Bridge over the railroad track. That's the only other really major bridge.
We don't have really any other major bridges in town, you know, that obviously hasn't already been named. So there's not that many choices.
Right. The family specifically request why a bridge? I mean, did they request a bridge?
Mayor was in on that conversation.
That's what they brought up, a bridge. They first named, you know, that's what, you know, that was their idea. a bridge, and they mentioned the I-24 bridge, and they've done already, according to what they said, they done talked to Jim Tracy, and Jim Tracy was in favor of bringing it through the legislature. If we want to name that bridge, we can let the state, and then the state would do all the, I guess, the putting up. Me and Bruce talked about it, and some construction about we might save that bridge if any citizen in Laverne was in the military and for any second thing maybe got killed in the military, we would maybe save the I-24 bridge for something like that, but that's just an idea. The family, I think, rather for the I-24 bridge, but that'd be our choice. We could name, you know, we could not even name a bridge. We could name, they do moral highways and stuff, but you know,
I mean, the reason I asked, I just want to know that they specifically asked for a bridge because with him being city administrator, I think it'd be nice, like a conference room or, you know, within the city.
A bridge, and what they requested was I-24, bridge over I-24. And they went as far as to call Jim Tracy. And according to what they told me, Jim Tracy was willing to do the steps to go through the legislature, and according to them, that the state would even come out and put it up. But it would be our decision first, and then it would go to the state legislature. And they would have to approve it. Just something to think about. We'll vote on it Tuesday, or if we're not ready, we can always postpone it to the next month. Everybody ain't on board about it. I think me and Sherry and Bruce, we're probably the only ones that remember on the Kirkendall. Nothing other said, we'll move to number 16, that's discussion, City Laverne Industrial Development Board.
Mayor, in the process of working on some of these developments for retail, it appears that there's a need to have our own Industrial Development Board, IDB, and this would give the city a way to provide incentives to commercial or retail developments that may be coming in. Of course, with Industrial Development Board, you also have the ability to do other things for industrial uses, manufacturing or whatnot. We've talked to Tom Trent, who is an attorney that we're working with on a possible tax increment financing situation with the development now, and he has suggested that we form our own board. And he can do that for us. He said he would charge us $5,000 to do that, and he could have that ready fairly quickly. So what I'm asking for is for this board next Tuesday to approve, to basically authorize him to draft up that paperwork for the city to form our own industrial development board. And then the following month, probably, we would be bringing it back for the actual approval and the establishment of that. There is a process that has to be done. There has to be an application filed with the city from 3 residents, and we'll get that part started, and then has to be approved by a resolution, and then a charter has to be what's the word I'm looking for? Approved by the state, filed with the state. To form that in the development board, and it would be put into place. So you have to have a board of 7 members, and the terms are 6 years, but they're staggered terms. So that's some of the things we've got to work out before we bring it back to this board once the documentation is written up. So.
Bruce, I got a question for you. When we met with Tom Trent and the developer we're referring to, if you recall, if we do not do a TIF or the development does not go through, the developer was going to pay for this. If, or any correspondence between us and Tom Trent, if we do this and we do go ahead with the TIF, is this something that can be included in the TIF? I believe he said at the meeting that it was, but I wanted to just see if we get some clarification on that.
To me, this is a separate item from the TIF because this industrial development board would stay in place for
ongoing,
however many years, you know, that we keep it in place. Whereas this TIF that we're talking about is a one-time thing. So I feel that this would be a separate expense from the actual TIF and probably would not be included in the TIF financing.
You know how those lawyers do.
I don't know.
So he's going to give us the blueprint as far as
He's
what
going
needs
to
be
going to
done.
write up the documentation for it, and I think he's going to take care of the filing and everything for him. He's supposed to send me an engagement letter. I've not received it yet. I should have that by Tuesday, obviously, for the meeting that night, and it should outline exactly what all he's going to do. But it's my understanding he's going to write all the documentation up and then take care of the filing with the state and everything that needs to be done on that end.
Okay, and you're going to be speaking to him prior to Thursday?
To Tuesday, yes.
Tuesday, I'm sorry. Okay, because if we don't get that, then he needs to know that.
Right.
Okay.
Right, yeah, we'll make sure we have that documentation ready for Tuesday night for that approval.
Any more questions? This is something the other cities got in place, right, Bruce?
Yes, sir. Smyrna has one. Of course, Rutherford County has one. I don't believe Murfreesboro has one because they rely on the county IDB, but there's a lot of cities across the state that do have their own IDB.
I got one other, I'm sorry, Tom.
No, go ahead, sir.
One other question, will this, it's not going to conflict with planning in any way, will it?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, this is completely separate. This is just dealing with, you know, various incentives either for industrial or retail type developments. It doesn't have anything to do with planning commission or anything like that.
Anything else? I guess we're down to mayor and alderman comments. Cabin, we'll start with you.
I don't have, I believe I talked out. Tom's had me arguing with him all night and I'm tired, so I'm good.
Melissa?
I'd just like to say there's some families in Laverne hurting tonight, and we just want to pray for all of them, keep them in our thoughts, and keep our community together.
Tom?
First of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Easter. I also want to thank a few residents of Laverne Fire Department for pitching in this last weekend. We had a little bit of a crisis, and just want to say thank you.
Terry?
I hope everybody has a happy Easter. And not only that, I just hope everybody can stay well and we can all love our neighbors and each other and just get along great. And I am very happy with our board. So that's about it.
Only thing I've got, I hope everyone has a great Good Friday tomorrow. City Hall is closed, but I found out the banks, I think, is open. Everybody have a happy and safe Easter. And glad Bruce's evaluation went great.
He deserved it.
Ever since I've been here, he's been the go-to person. If you couldn't go to him, you was about out of luck. I appreciate, Bruce, all the hard work you put in.
Thank you, Mayor.
Might be because you got a good neighbor beside you.
I agree.
Thank you.
And that being
We're all
said, I
neighbors.
call it over.